Today on /AskReddit, we explored the topic of what is something not safe for work you've done, but if you told anyone they would probably never want to talk to you again. I had a girlfriend in college who had a coon fetish. She would jerk me off into her toothbrush and sit there and keep it in her mouth while we watched House Save Lives on TV. A few times she jerked me off into her food. That was weird. I saw her on Facebook a few years ago. She sells bath bombs and stuff like that. I wouldn't buy from her though. I had sex with my best friend's mom at a sleepover when I was 14. She was one of the freaky ones and put it in cowgirl without protection, told me it's okay to let it spray. She was on birth control. I trusted her since she was a grown woman and thought she knew what she was doing. 9 months later my friend has a baby sister. He later revealed to me that in his early years he has slept with his mom and his aunt. My next door neighbor was a female bodybuilder. I was 16 and obsessed, persuaded her to let me babysit, because in my mind when she came home after a night out I might have a chance. Turns out, it didn't take much. Turned into a bi-weekly thing for a year till we moved. No one ever knew I was fucking my 40-years-old neighbor, and to this day I have an obsession with muscly women. Now I look back on it, it was pretty fucked up. But I have several fucked up stories like this. Not sure which wins. When I was 19 I paid $350 for the services of a woman of the night. I left and went to a friend's house where they were having a party. I got very drunk and realized I left my phone charger at this woman's motel. So I took an Uber back and she wouldn't let me back in again unless I paid, so I gave her another $350, did the dirty deeds, and grabbed my charger and left. It wasn't until the next day I realized I could have just spent $10 on a new charger. Over the last year I've gone from being like almost 300 pounds and miserable to 150 pounds and fit as fuck. My parents, coworkers and doctor are all like, wow, this is so amazing, I'm proud of you, how did you do it? Most people can't do that without WLS. And I just laugh and say, oh, calorie deficit, which I mean is true, but not the whole story. What actually happened was I apparently had a bad binge eating disorder I was in denial about, and that's what stopped any attempts dead in their tracks. Last year on a 3-day weekend I came home and decided, hey, I got 3 days off, time to fly. And proceeded to take 5 tabs of LSD. Then it swung hard into bad trip territory, and I felt like I was going to just straight up die while watching the carpet bubble. Then after the trip I realized whatever was in my brain that made me get dopamine rushes from food and crave food, while stressed and depressed, just was deleted. Gone. Proof. So I just ran with it. Like only 3 people know what actually happened. It's not like an awful secret, but I'm not going to tell my parents or coworkers like, yeah, I got lit the fuck up on LSD and accidentally cured my eating disorder. I dunno, man, I don't make the rules. I had to go bad and felt my inner colon paining. I ran into the supply room and shit in a box. It was horrible, smelled so pungent too. I dumped a bunch of random stuff inside and taped the box closed and carried it out, like I was getting needed supplies. I had a 1.5 year long relationship with my best friend's mother. We've never told anyone. I paid for WinRAR back in 2006. I used to comb onto the inside of a pair of boxer shorts, so my girlfriend at the time could wear them to work and rub herself while standing behind the bar. Her thing, and I don't judge. I tried to suck my own dick, which gave me a hernia that still is painful sometimes even 30 years later. Moral: when young, stretch every day. Edit. I did succeed, but I did not swallow. That was one bridge too far, so since I did not dare to climax I stopped doing it. It did not feel like sucking a dick at all, but felt like getting it sucked 100%. I got the hernia surgically fixed. Still, the metal plate is annoying sometimes, but nothing that bad. I'm a 45-year-old man. I live in a co-op apartment building in New York City. I worked on a building beautification project with a fellow resident about 6 months ago. I'm guessing she's about 30 years my senior. All during the project we shared a lot of laughs and formed a comfortable friendship. At the end of the project, she invited me to her apartment for dinner. We shared some great conversation and a lot of wine. At some point while I was talking, she put her hand over mine, which I was resting on the table. She leaned in for a kiss, and I reciprocated. We had sex that night. It was good sex too. A week or so later she called me up and asked if I could change a light bulb in her ceiling. It was a pretext for us to have sex again. Since then, we've established a relationship where she texts me requesting some help, I go over to her place and we have sex. If I told anyone in my life that I'm having a sexual relationship with a woman in her mid-70s, I'm not sure what the reaction would be. I think they'd think I've lost my mind. I had an orgasm while running away from an angry chihuahua when I was 8 years old. No ejaculating, just the sensation. I spent the rest of that summer trying to get that chihuahua to chase me. Not me but a friend. During a confessions conversation a group of us were having, he said he'd watched CP during lockdown and enjoyed it. He's no longer part of the group because nobody has spoken to him since. When I was a young teenager I used to jack it to a JCPenney's catalog. Yes, even the maternity section. It developed a kink. This was before smartphones, and my dad was really good at hiding his Playboy. I had a Pornhub account, and had a pretty big fan base. I made money by selling videos on Snapchat. This was before OnlyFans was a thing. I was 23 and could use the money. I loved the attention and I loved the excitement. I even did it for free in the beginning. For the Dutchies. I also was pretty big on Gen Student. At 16 I stole a fleshlight from a local sex store, then drove off not being able to wait to use it. I used it while driving and actually finished, but post-nut clarity set in. I threw it out the window into what I thought was some woods, but I looked last second to have an image burned into my mind. The image of a used fleshlight exploding onto a gravestone from a cemetery at 45 miles per hour. Reality set in then. Between the ages of 12 to 16 I used a hand-puppet cow to jack off. I ended up needing it to ejaculate. I named it Mr. Cumcums. I don't have answers for any questions regarding the name. Anyway, one day I went to use Mr. CC, and he was nowhere to be found. To this day, almost 20 years later, I still wonder of his whereabouts. Maybe in my parents' attic with my childhood toys, maybe deep in a landfill. Or, the poor thing came to life like Toy Story, and finally made its great escape. Back in middle school I had to buy copper sheets for our class sculptures. I had a lot extra, so what the horny little 13-year-old bastard did was sculpting a vulva in class. What the fuck was I thinking, and then brought it home. I started humping it and decided it needed a little bit of lube. After I put it on I damn near slashed my cock on the sharp corner of the sheet. Remember kids. If PP Kanochi. No go on PP. When I was like 9 to 10 years old I figured out all this sexual stuff and thought masturbating is awesome. Did it too much, and even to the point that I put cat treats down there next to it, so my cat would eat it there. I did that once still when I was 10 years old. Still ashamed nowadays if I think of it. I don't know what was going on inside my head, not a lot I think. When I was 11 I had a mental breakdown and felt bad for everything I did. I even felt guilty for masturbating itself. Told every single thing I did to my mom and dad. It was a hard time. But they handled the situation good. I went on a rooftop with a thrill that someone might come upstairs. Luckily no one came. But I was caught on CCTV. When you say no one came. I had sex on somebody's grave. The headstone was old and slanted, so the girl sort of reclined on it whilst I slipped in and went to town. Anybody who went in that graveyard that night probably thought there was some agitated ghost around. I dommed a guy online once. He begged me to dom him while he was at his nephew's funeral. So I did. I made him finger his ass in the bathroom and send me pics. It was weird. He just kept saying thank you mommy. I was 23, and he was 45. Edit. Now that I think about it, I was probably actually only 19 to 21. I tested out the whole pussy fluid / period blood makes men love you when ingested thing on 3 separate guys. I'm very much ashamed because 1, they didn't know, and 2, it's years later. I'm a lot older and much more aware of how weird and disgusting what I did was. But I'm also still being stalked years later by all 3 people, in varying degrees. No idea if it worked or this is just a major coincidence, but it just adds to my deep cringy regret. Edit. Yes. I am fully aware of how awful and boundary-breaking my actions were, that's why I posted them. It's not a good or funny thing I did, and I've had therapy since. A lot. I spent a couple years at university in the UK, and during a weak financial summer, set up an escort account online, quickly learning most women don't hire escorts. So I spent the summer doing gay for pay. Getting fucked mostly by over 50-year-old married men. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts below to support the channel. See you in the next one.